and welcome to Sports Quotes and Facts Untold. Today I'm joined by former Millwall defender Darren Ward to look back at his career and, of course, the FA Cup final of 2004. Darren, first of all, thanks for joining us. Surely, getting to that showpiece was the big moment of your career.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, first and foremost. Lovely to be here and talk about my career and events that happened during my career, which for some might be interesting, others maybe not. But here we go. But yeah, it was the FA Cup final was certainly a highlight, one of quite a few in my career.
Yeah. So just to go back to the very start, you started your career with Watford, and your debut was actually against Luton at the age of 18. What was it like to sort of be thrown in the deep end in such an intense game for your first ever, professional game?
Yeah, do you know what? It was for some reason I looked this stat up a little while ago because I saw something, I don't know what it was. It might be in social media about the youngest ever footballers who played for Watford. I was a first year YT and I just turned 17. But I looked at the top 10 and my name wasn't on that list for some reason. But I think there were guys older than me, but in the top 10. So yeah. I don't know, for whatever reason, I've kind of escaped the top 10 youngest players to play for Watford. But for whatever reason, and I think people think I was 18, but I wasn't. I just turned 17. So that was really daunting to be fair, because true story. 6 months before that, I wasn't even in youth team, starting 11. We had a pre-season game, funnily enough, against Luton, and I was substitute. It was a friendly game. Obviously, I wasn't happy. Come on, done well. Started the next friendly game away to Oxford. I remember it like yesterday because it was a boiling hot day. Real slow start, but then done really well. And I think after that, it was the first game of the season against Arsenal youth team. We won 1-0. Done really well again and just didn't look back. 6 months or whatever it was down the line, I'm playing in the first team. And it was just a rapid rise to first team professional football as a child, right? You're under 18. It was a great experience. I remember it again like yesterday, preparing, no real nerves, daunting in a way that I'm playing against professional men in a professional game. But it was something I always wanted to do. So as much as when you look at, if you look at it too much, right, I was playing against Gwenchev, I think it was.
Yeah.
It just played in the World Cup for Bulgaria, I think it was. Was it one of the all-time goal scorers, Kim Grant, I think might have been. And if we'd lost, we were going down. We were getting relegated. So the pressure was on me. Young, skinny, 17-year-old, who hadn't played a first-team game. But I was looked after really well. Looked after well by Kenny Jackett, Graham Taylor, Luther Blissett, who were obviously the coaching staff then. And I remember Steve Palmer really, really kind of protected me. We played at the back, two centre-halves together, and he was awesome, Steve. Do you know what? I probably in my career, and maybe if he's listened to this, Steve, thank you. I was a sad attitude when I was young. I was young and, free and do what I want sort of thing. But looking back, Steve Palmer was instrumental in my career growing up. Great role model. Really, he really looked after me in many ways. And away trips leading up to that, he always let me use his mobile phone on the way home. Mobile phone at that age, to phone my mum to pick me up with dad. It's not until maybe you grow up and you mature a bit, you realise that there were some good people there, really good people. And Steve was one of them.
Yeah. And obviously England, there's full of derby games, but how would you describe the sort of intensity of that rivalry of Watford and Luton?
Yeah, it was very intense, incredibly so. It's obviously rivalries been going on for years. I remember coming out the tunnel and just getting dog's abuse. Absolutely, everything you could think of was getting thrown at me verbally. And then coming in, my age and people knew me, I was a target, right? It's an opportunity to maybe psychologically get stuck into a young player. But I'll be honest, I thought, and it proved I was good enough. I was good enough. I knew that at the time that I was performing at a very high level. I played a number of reserves games that season. I was training with the first team every week and had been for probably, I think, the last 4 months maybe. So in and around, you're kind of always in and around the first team. So Graham Taylor had a lot of faith in me. I knew he liked me as a player. And again, someone who stuck by me and supported me throughout my career, and we'll probably move on to that in a while about how much he was supportive of me. And there's a few stories there which I just forever grateful for the late Graham Taylor for what he done.
And you talk about that support, that 96-97 season, you actually made another 7 appearances, but soon after you broke your leg. How difficult was that to deal with, that you had the run in the side, making a bit of a name for yourself, and then all of a sudden there's nothing you can do but watch on from the stands? Yeah,
absolutely. So just to give a bit of background, if anyone's listening or whatever, so I was our youth team were very good. It was arguably the best youth team of Watford's history. Within our group, there were 16 YTs at the time, 15 professionals out of 16. Unheard of. Show me anywhere in the country, even now, unheard of. The standard was very high, which is why we've done so well in the league and the cup runs. Didn't win anything, which was something which we should have done, but we didn't. Which again, it is what it is. It's development, right? But we were that good. And coming up for the ranks, we were competing with the top boys at the time. So the top boys, my age, Rio, Frank Lampard, Jody Morris, Clement, Neil Clement, Matthew Upson. That was my era and that was my age. And we're competing against and with these players. Incredible standard, and what an era. So when I was kind of coming through, people I think were aware of that, how good we were. Maybe not the bigger audience of the Prem and the bigger kind of scouts and teams, but we soon got a name. Where I remember we played a team in the FA Youth Cup, a league team, and we won. I think it was 10-0. And straight after, when we come back in the changing room, word got in that scouts were saying, "Look, whoever you don't sign here, pass them on." And that was for our whole team. We were fantastic. So I was very kind of lucky in a way that I was in a very good youth team. So Paul Robinson, West Brom, Bolton, I think he's played about 750, nearly 800 games. Tommy Smith, Sunderland, Portsmouth, Watford, Gifton Williams, David Perpetuini, just to name a few. We're talking thousands of professional games between us, so that was very fortunate for me. So when I stepped into the first team and played the season after, where overall I feel I performed well. I knew that there were top clubs watching me because agents were approaching me, and it was, I think, the week before I broke my leg, we played. Who was it? It was Oxford away, I think it was. And the player came up to me and said, "Look, just to let you know, Crystal Palace are watching tonight. They've come. I know. My agent's told me. He's come to watch you." And when you're young, you're kind of getting a little bit carried away with it. Didn't play particularly well. My focus had gone, I'd say, which it is what it is. But then I was still playing really well. So there was a rearranged game for Ronnie Rosenthal. Everyone knows Ronnie, I think, at Northwood Football Club. And it was against Norwich. I wasn't overly happy I was playing because I thought I should be in the first team, but I played. And I think really due to too much adrenaline, maybe a bit too, not an attitude, but a bit too confident. And we were all as a group very, say aggressive players, but we we didn't mess around, you know. And if you speak to anyone about, you know, Chris and Andy Johnson, Colin Pluck, these players, just all over the pitch were just ruthless, but good players. And there's me, Chris Llewellyn, who was Welsh international, played for Sheffield United. He was playing for Norwich at the time before his move, and he's caught me, and you know, kind of got a bit too ahead of myself, got annoyed with it, went to tackle hard in return, and caught on the bottom of his boot, clean break, my shin in 2 places. So not good, but my fault. Put my hand up, totally my fault. Which then meant that I missed basically 9-10 months out fully with a metal kind of rod in my leg, well, steel plate and 6 screws. And then about a year after that, I was just no good, just playing, but nowhere near the standing level that I was because of my leg. So I missed a crucial time of my career, crucial of development. You know, that's as far as I'm concerned. So obviously I was lucky enough to play Prem football, top level champ Prem most of my career. And I firmly believe that was a good 18 months to 2 years of top level football missed. But it was a great lesson. You know, it's a great lesson that and advice to youngsters out there that, you know, control yourself. Don't get too ahead of yourself. Don't think you're too big for anything, because it will soon knock you down, and it certainly did for me.
Yeah. So obviously that was a really difficult spell, but as I meant, you know, Graham Taylor was there, and you mentioned his support. What was it like actually learning under him? Because, you know, he's an icon at Vicarage Road. He was also an England manager. You know, that must have been great to have such a coach at that time of your career.
Absolutely. It was honestly, I as I come through the ranks as a youngster from grassroots, some of the coaches I had were just, I look back and think, wow, you know, you're so lucky. Joined Watford, John McDermott, as our under 13s, 14s coach. John's now with England, dealing with Gareth Southgate at Tottenham for many years. He's been kind of looked at by all the top clubs in the country, but he's now had the opportunity to deal with the England first team. Kenny Jackett. There's so many. Glenn Roeder, Kenny Sanson when I first got in and around. Then Graham took over with Kenny and Luther. And Graham, Graham was just, he's one of them that you don't realise how good he is until he's not here, until you've moved on and you start to experience other clubs and other managers. He was a top manager. And it was funny because I remember one of the first games that I played in was a reserve game, which I knew that he was watching. And I can't remember who we played. I think it might have been Brentford at home at Vicarage Road. And I played really well. And I was over the moon because I knew he was watching. And when you're young, you used to look up for the scouts, you used to look up for who was watching at times. Just something you just did. And after the game, someone pulled me in and they'd be speaking to Graham and he said, yeah, he's going to do well. He's going to be a top player. And I just over the moon. He supported me incredibly well. His heart was very firm with me at times, but fair, especially when I broke my leg. So I just not long signed a 3.5-year deal, I think it was. And within no time I'm out. The contract, I signed a contract, and the contract was like, it was just like the signature of like signing your life away, literally, and missing out football. So when Watford got promoted to the Prem, I just had the metal plate taken out. So Nicky Wright and Alan Smart scored the winner at Wembley. As soon as they went up, he not as soon, but within no time, he obviously sorted out the contracts, and he I had a meeting with him, and he said, "Darren, you've had a rough ride." I went, "Yeah, I know. I've had a stinker. I've had a real tough time." And he said, "You know what I'm going to do?" He went, "I'm going to give you a brand new 3-year deal. Rip that contract up. Don't want to see that. Here's a new 3-year deal." And the money was good.
Right.
And I've been kind of, I kind of, if someone was in the room, it's one of them. You look at them, you look back at him. Has he just given this to me?
Yeah.
Because it was a considerable amount more than what I was on. And he said, I've got full confidence in you that you're going to come back and you're going to be a top player. I've seen enough, even after this horror injury you've had. I know it hasn't gone well, and I wasn't playing well, but he said, I'm confident. Had the metal plate out. Within 3 months, I was playing in the Prem.
Yeah.
You know, if he had that crystal ball, he could certainly, you know, it was almost an incentive that someone with the ambition and work rate and mindset that I had, you just wouldn't fail to achieve. It's just it's just going to happen. So he had a great way of dealing with people. His man management and his organisation, his timing was top. And yeah, I'm just forever grateful that gave a great platform for me in my life. I could then move home. I'd already moved out, but I needed, you know, at the time I wanted a different area, a different place, start again, nice and clean, and that gave me the opportunity to do that as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned in 1999, Graham Taylor takes Watford up to the Premier League. Now, looking at the team, what was that dressing room like? Because for me, it seems like, you know, you mentioned about the young players, but there were quite a few older heads as well. It seemed like there was a really good blend of youth and then those older players.
Yeah, Graham, his recruitment was fantastic. It was, when you look at who he brought in, no names. I think no names. He'd always bring a name in. So he brought Jason Lee when we were going through, I can't remember, was it League One to the champ?
Yeah.
Or was it Ronnie? He brought either one of those either side. So there was always a name, but then players who brought in who've done really well, Alan Smart, Nicky Wright, Michael Hyde, no one had heard of these guys. And we're kind of going, he's having a laugh here. You know, these are lower league players, haven't done anything. Peter Kennedy, what a signing. What a signing. And they all produce the goods. There's very rarely a player that he would sign that wouldn't go on and do something fantastic for the club. And when you're coming through the ranks and you're seeing this, it helped to raise your standards. It helped to realise that he'll give you a chance. He's given these players a chance. He just got the blend so well. It was just one of their magical moments, and they all got on. It seemed that they all got on really well, which is a huge bonus. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen. As much as you might do all your homework and due diligence, it's not a guarantee. So, he just got it right. He just got that right. And it served the club well.
Yeah, I remember there was a big win that you got at Anfield. I think Tommy Mooney got the winner.
Yeah.
What was the belief like from where Watford had come from and that journey they'd gone on to then get a win at Anfield? The confidence must have just been, you know, huge.
Do you know what? At that time, I was still on loan at QPR, so I played in the Prem against Coventry away.
Yeah,
and then after that, I went out on loan for 3 months to Queen's Park Rangers under Jerry Francis, which, looking back, is probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
Jerry in football, previously anyway, he's just known as just like the Messiah. What he says, you listen to. When he talks, you listen. And that's what I learned very quick. I had some great guys at Queen's Park Rangers with me as well. Chris Karomia, Ian Dowie was there coming up for the ranks as a coach.
Yeah.
So many good players there that just supported your kind of your development, and that was really important. But keeping an eye on what Watford were doing, that they were kind of that they were always in there. You know, always in there. They weren't. They're obviously near the bottom of the league, but never you know, especially now in our growing work, that they're always hanging on. They're scrapping. They're getting a couple of bits here and there. Obviously, in the end, it was enough, but I was so keen to see what they were doing because although I was on loan, my full intention was I want to play in this. I want to play in the Prem. I want to be a regular. I want to get a run. So yeah, it was just. I think it was difficult because the level's a level, right? And to get a win at Anfield. I remember speaking to a couple of guys after. Yeah, they were over the moon that they got that. But then, unfortunately, we couldn't keep that run going enough to stay in the Prem.
Yeah, and you mentioned your Premier League debut was against Coventry. That was Halloween.
Oh right, yeah.
I imagine it was quite frightening to take on Robbie Keane and Gary McAllister. You know, what's that like? That, you know, obviously you've been in the Championship and you've come up and you've, you know, a lot of top players, but then Robbie Keane, I think he'd just been on loan to Inter Milan. He was the next up and coming striker. What was it like to just face someone with that pace and that electricity and that finishing technique?
I'll be honest. When I played against Robbie, and I played against him a few times, I felt comfortable with him.
Right.
I really did.
Yeah.
When we played the return leg at Vicarage Road, I played against him again and we won 1-0. I just a player I felt comfortable. You know, he's a fantastic player, no mistake. Great career, great energy, great creativity. But he's one of the players I felt comfortable to play against. Maybe it's because, I don't know, in my head I'm sharp as well. As a defender, I like to think I could read the game well. Maybe that was why, I don't know. But yeah, it's just the pinnacle, isn't it? It's just you know, you're in the Prem, it's the best league even then in the world. You know, you can't look at all these fantastic, look at the array of players that are on show. So, and personally, I felt I'd done really well when I played in the Prem. I felt I played some fantastic football. And the comeback after breaking my leg, 2 clean breaks for your shin, to come back and play there, that was just an absolute dream come true, because I was a whisker away from never playing football again. So I just took it all on board. So thankful for that. I didn't play as much in the Prem as what I would have liked. I had many opportunities to go back into the Prem. But going back to when I broke my leg, when I hit my, I think, real prime, when I was in autopilot at Millwall, 26, 27, 28, I had missed 2 good years of very good pay.
Right.
My decision, which we can probably talk about later, to join these sides, it was a financial one as well. It was heavily financial. So these are the things that you have to consider when you're playing, because it's not a long career. But overall, it's just thankful, very, very appreciative. The hard work put in to get back, support, to actually play against these top players.
Yeah, because over your career, Darren, you know, you've played in all four divisions. But do you have the confidence in yourself that you believe you could have played Premier League more regularly than you did?
Absolutely, absolutely. No doubt at all. So on many occasions, I could have moved to Prem sides, and I turned moves down. So I would have been back in the Premiership, and I knew these managers like me. And I was kind of half trying to stay loyal to Millwall because I had a lot of good times there. Look at the teams we played against. Look at the level that we had to, even in the final. You know, watch that game. Someone tell me that isn't Premiership standard that I played. It is. And I felt it, and I wanted that. Again, a financial opportunity come up for me that I'm thinking about what I've missed, and I need to make sure that I support my future as well. And but it is what it is, right? It's history. If could have, maybe, buts and whatever. But I was very, very confident and optimistic that if that time had come, that I would be very comfortable to play at that level.
Yeah, and you've got that confidence, and as you said, that season the Watford were in the Prem. 1 week you took on Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp, and a week later you took on Teddy Sheringham and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
That's right.
In terms of, people in football would say that Sheringham, Henry, Bergkamp, they're all top players. But for you as a young defender, how did you find it when you would have Thierry Henry running at you with pace, and then you'd have someone like Dennis Bergkamp or Teddy Sheringham who are great positionally and they can bring it into feet and bring others in? Which was the biggest challenge for you, would you say?
So I've watched clips of the games, and obviously I played in the games, and the scoreline was tight in both games.
Yeah, 3-2 both times.
Yeah, and we had chances to win. At the beginning of the Arsenal game, there was a stone cold penalty. It was a penalty, and if you look back, it was blatant. How we didn't get that was, especially at that time, it would have been given, no doubt, nowadays anyway. But it was a pen, and I think the standard that I showed, if that's what we're talking about, in terms of myself as a player, that I enjoyed playing against these guys. It wasn't you're starting and you're getting brought off after half an hour because you're way off there. I played 90 minutes there. I played the last, 9-10 games of the season. Arsenal, Man United, Middlesbrough away, Southampton. My performances were very high, and that's why I started in the Championship this next season and played a lot of games. Mm-hmm. It's one of them. Football can happen really quick, and things can just kind of, it's like a light switch in football at times. You can rise to the top. At the beginning of the season, I just had metal plate out. Now, 7 months down the line, playing against Thierry Henry, Lundberg, Petit, Vieira, top, best ever players in the history of football. Yeah. And you've got to then psychologically take control. Yep. You have to stay disciplined, and you have to understand that you have to beat your A game to compete with these guys. If you aren't at your A game, they will steamroll you. And that's a lesson that I quickly learned. There were some of the hardest games I ever played, because one thing that people don't realise is that top players aren't just technically good players. They are the hardest working players as well.
Yeah, right.
And that is something which people at times don't see and don't understand. Like witnessing it from first-hand experience from playing against them, but also witnessing it from playing with top world-class players in training. When I was at Crystal Palace, Andy Johnson, England international. The work rate of this guy is phenomenal. There's a reason why he's top earner at Palace, and they're paying him ridiculous money to play in the Championship when he should be in the Prem and he's still playing for England. Yep. You learn that quick, and you have a choice. You stay with the pack and you work harder, or you fall away and sit on your money.
Yeah, right.
Which isn't what I did. Yep. So, I just took it all on board. I embraced it. I lapped it up and enjoyed it for what it was whilst it was there, which is great.
And you mentioned then that football, it can be like a light switch. Gianluca Vialli came into Watford, and sort of he wanted to shape his own squad, and you moved on. Well, at that time when you went to Millwall, were you ready to leave Watford, or how were you feeling at that stage?
Do you know what? It was a funny one, because it was a huge turnaround, huge transition at the club. Graham Taylor had basically saved the money for the club. Vialli come in and spent the money very quickly, and there were guys on crazy. You're talking 22, 23 years ago, that there were players on 5 figures a week in the Championship.
Yeah, insane.
There's a player we got told about. He was earning more money than David Beckham before he signed his new deal at Man United. There was a player at Watford, and that's when Elton John supposedly stepped away, because when he found that out, he knew something wasn't right. That's something Graham would not do, and it got out of control. The club, I could see I wasn't getting a chance. For example, I played in a cup game. We won 1-0, I think it was. First clean sheet of the season. wasn't even in the squad for Saturday. So you kind of get it. You kind of see that this isn't going to happen. He's got his own ideas. I've got a 38, 39-year-old playing in front of me. Don't get me wrong. Fantastic guy. Fantastic player, Felipe Galli. Absolute legend in Italy. But you just look at it that it's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. So I played a reserve game. Remember Brentford? Barnet away. I remember it again very clearly. Mark McGee knew he was going to watch me. Just relaxed. I still had a good contract, but nice and relaxed. Played really well. Day after, I went to meet him and then signed a deal. Signed a new, 3.5-year deal at Millwall, or whatever it was. They matched it. I liked what they were trying to do. Millwall had just been promoted from League One. Really exciting young squad. Likes of Tim Cahill, Stephen Reed, Richard Sadlier, David Livermore. Just loads of players coming through, been given a chance. Neil Harris, who was scoring a lot of goals up until then. And I always had something from Millwall, to be fair. I was in the squad when I was a 16-year-old with Glenn Roeder before Graham took over. I was in that squad when they played Millwall. So this was before my debut at Luton. And I remember turning up at the Den and it was just rocking. It was just incredible. And I just did, what a place. I loved the kit. Something about the kit I loved. At the time, it was just, what a kit they've got. And then as soon as I knew they were interested and they could match the figures, I just jumped all over it. I knew there were other clubs interested, but so I'm not interested to my age at the time. I want to join Mill. I joined Millwall and what a ride. What a ride.
Yeah. And I've got to ask about the Millwall fan base, because I know they have a fierce reputation. They sing, no one likes us, we don't care. As a player for Millwall, does that make you feel 10 feet tall, or can it be quite intimidating if you have a bad game?
So, for example, I joined, played the first game, West Brom away. I think we won 2-0. We went to a back three. I played right to three with Stuart Nethercott and Sean Dyche. Great win. Fantastic against, I think, West Brom, who they might have gone up, but it was certainly challenging anyway that season. I then was sub for the next game because he wants to go to a back four. He said, look, fantastic result, well played, but against this team, I want to go to a back four. And I couldn't really say anything because they're doing so well. They then won that game and they kept winning. So I think I played a cup game against, Blackburn, done really well. Again, but couldn't break into this team. And to be honest, even at a young age of 23, I got it. I understood. And Mark McGee, he was honest. I said, I get it. But then the back end of the season, Sean got injured and I ended up playing the last 10 games. And it was we just kept going and obviously got into the playoffs against Birmingham. And when you're on a wave like that with a club, the fans are just unbeatable. You can't beat them. Everyone knows what they're like. And then following that season, first game of the season, Rotherham at home, we lost 6-0 at home. And there was a big debate and there was a big issue about the bonuses, which not a lot of people know about, that we still hadn't. I think we signed them in the morning just before the game. And it wasn't good, and it probably spilt into the game, hence the result. So you went from the highest of high to the lowest of low. Then I had a bit of time out in and around the club, and before that, when I wasn't in the team with Stuart and Sean keeping me out, they'd let you know their thoughts. They'd say that I'm useless, go back to Watford, waste of money, because they'd paid £500,000 for me.
Yep. Back
then is a lot of money. A lot of money. £500,000 22 years ago. So to Millwall in particular, to spend that sort of money on a player who is he going to make it? What's he about? They're certainly going to test the water, and they did on many occasions.
Yeah. And from my memories of that Millwall team, Darren, as well, you almost mirrored the fan base. You know, I feel like you were an aggressive team. You would play on the front foot. You know, I'm an Evertonian, so I watched Tim Cahill for many years. And it's just that, you know, obviously he's got ability, but it's that fight which I think sets him apart. Did you feel like with that team and the characters in the dressing room that's what you were about? That you would never give a team an easy game?
Absolutely. Always hard to beat. Always hard to beat. I think even now, some of the best Millwall teams have always kind of based their teams around being hard to beat. Strong back four, don't concede a lot of goals, won't score loads at times, but we might get a kind of a counter or a set piece. That's a good reflection of what the club's been like for many years, I think. There has been moments where you scored lots and not done as well, conceded a lot, but the club is continued a bit of a pattern, I would say, like that. We were certainly hard to beat. We wouldn't concede a lot, and especially when those few changes were made, where Matty Lawrence was drafted in as a centre half when there was injuries to the centre halves, and we just hit it off. The partnership was incredible, but no one had ever even thought that would happen until we got 2 or 3 injuries. And we ended up getting about 25, 26 clean sheets plus that season. Ridiculous clean sheets. Timmy was in. It was a funny one with Tim because obviously everyone's seen what he's done since during meal time and in, beyond that. But when you see Timmy in training, when he's talking about, I'm going to join this top Prem side, and we're looking at him going, all right, good luck with that. Because he never like seemed to set the world alight. You couldn't say, right, Timmy was good at this, or Timmy had loads of speed, technically unbelievable. He wasn't overly quick. He wasn't technically overly gifted when he had the ball at his feet. But what he did have a knack of is scoring very important goals at very important times. It was unreal, like written in the stars sort of thing. and you look at his whole career, he'd done it everywhere he's been. And he's what I think set Timmy apart from everyone else was the belief he had. I don't think I've come across a player who believes in himself and can predict what he's going to do with his career more than him. Unreal stuff. It's like Timmy.
It's almost like manifestation, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He would say, I'm going to do this, and he'd do it. He'd go, in 3 years, I'm going to do this, and he'd do it. And you'd be like, how's he getting this? This is unreal. And I'm over the moon for how he done after. Everyone loved Timmy. He was fantastic. We actually trained when I was at Millwall, trained at Everton's training ground once, and he went out of his way, got 3 of us who were still close to him at the time, 3 signed Everton shirts, come up, met all the guys, manager, gave us the shirts. Just nice guy, nice guy. He just got on with what he had to do, didn't mess around. Belief was incredible, and he should be proud of where he's come from and what he's done himself, because he's just done amazing.
And it's great to ask a centre-back this, Darren. With Tim Cahill in the air, how do you defend against him, like at set pieces? What is the best way to deal with him, or is it impossible?
I think back then was probably easier because you could probably manhandle him a little bit more, be a bit more aggressive, which is certainly what I would do. We done a test at the training ground once, standing jump. He beat everyone by a country mile. His jump from a standing position was incredible. And we were like, Tim, how are you doing this? You're not overly strong in the gym. You're not the fastest player here. You're not rapid. It was always a bit of a mystery of what makes Tim such a good player. And I tell you what, his jumping ability, his timing, just incredible. If you gave him that chance, he's in the net. And that's something which in training, I knew what to do. I just rugby tackled him. I'm just getting older, Timmy. Timmy, you're not jumping. As soon as you jump, I'm 6'4". But if I don't get a good jump, if you're jumping over me and running onto this ball, I'm not winning this ball. You're winning the ball. And you know it's going to be hitting that net. So for players, I think they tried that. Few were successful because he knew how to deal with that as well. Timmy's smart guy, smart player.
Yeah. And then in 2003, Dennis Wise comes to the football club and you reached the FA Cup final in 2004.
Yeah.
What was the moment in the run where you thought, this is something special that I'm a part of?
It's funny because the team spirit and the things that that Dennis done within the group with all the top players, with all of us, which is so different. People probably don't know this, but we used to go to a gym. Frank Maloney, who's now, back then, it's Frank Maloney. We used to be boxing with like world champions, sparring with world champions, and we're like, you being serious, Dennis? We're going to go and box, and I sparred like a top trainer, and it's like 2-minute rounds of whatever it was. Then at the end, we'd be pairing up and fighting each other in the boxing ring. 2-minute rounds again, and things he did. He was just very good at getting everyone going, and the club that Millwall was at the time, it wasn't you couldn't just do what you wanted. But it was very relaxed, and he put trust in the players. That he used to say, "I don't mind you going out, guys. I don't mind you going out, but if you go out together. Right. If it's time to train, you train. If you don't train hard enough, you don't work when it's time to work, I won't be happy." And you knew. So the kind of reciprocal understanding was very clear. He knew what you wanted. He was probably a perfect manager at the time to step in after Mark McGee, who was quite unfortunate at the time because he'd done a good job. He straight away brought in Ray Wilkins, who was part of the coaching team at Watford with Vialli.
Right.
Which I didn't really get on with, if I'm being honest. And Ray wasn't a fan of me when I was at Watford, I don't think. But then he had no choice because I was a good player then, very good player. And it just worked. They brought Danny Dichio in, who was, again, a perfect fit for the club. The character, the kind of the aggression, the sort of player that fitted in well with the philosophy or the game plan that we had, or the method that we had at the club, was brilliant. An incredible year. That was an incredible year.
Yeah, I've actually heard that boxing story. Was there a moment when Dennis Wise and Tim Cahill got in the ring? Yeah.
They got in, and it's funny because it was a bit of kind of healthy but aggressive competition.
Yeah.
So they were both in a similar, they played in a similar position, and Timmy always just wanted to be the best at whatever he did, but so did Dennis.
Yeah.
So they both went in against each other, and it was just like power play for the first minute. It was just they were both just swinging, the energy going into this, and we were sitting there just creasing up, all of us. We were in hysterics, absolute hysterics at these two, because they both wanted to win. They both wanted to fight each other. They both wanted to knock each other out. And it was just hilarious to watch. And those things, I think, put us in good stead for the season ahead and the FA Cup run. And it was just something always to talk about. If we're down, I remember the time when Dennis and Timmy were trying to knock lumps out of each other in the boxing ring. Like on the Monday after a Saturday game. It was just very unique, very special.
Yeah. And was there a moment as well when you mentioned Dennis Wise, like you all to socialise, that there was one player who didn't go out and he was the one who got in trouble?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went to Canada. Honestly, it was one of the moments that it was after the FA Cup. So we were heading out to Canada, but we stayed at Heathrow Airport the night before. So we headed out the night before. We're in the room. Message goes around the group. Fancy a night out. Straight away, everyone's pinging back. Yes. Went down the road to this club. Excuse me. Early hours in the morning. I think we're flying at maybe 6 in the morning. We didn't get in till 3, maybe. I don't know. Around that, it was late. We went out to Canada, all asleep on the plane, just really tired. Got out, got to the hotel, bite to eat, to the training facility, and done a run. It was it was a 1.5 mile run. Just Dennis loved this run. I think partly because he was good at it, but it was just the run we just did. And we've started this run, and I was a strong runner. I was probably the strongest runner out of everyone, and I'd stretch away. It was a strength of mine as a player. I was a good, strong runner. And I was struggling. I was really struggling. We all were. But I don't think it was all to do with the night out. It was to do with the conditions and the altitude. We were really high. Jet lag, all these things. And we all suffered. So there was a few whispers going on, and all of a sudden he's blown the whistle. He's got us all together. And he's gone, right, whoever went out last night, stand this side. Whoever didn't, go and stand that side. So we're all kind of like shuffling to his side, which we obviously went out. And there was one player who didn't go out. And we thought, oh no, we are going to get absolutely roasted here. He's turned around to that player and just hammered him. I said, if you go out, you all go out together. And he started just laying into him. And we kind of look at each other, frozen, kind of like, eyeball stuff. And then he turned back to us. He said, look, guys, I don't want this. You go out together, but at the same time, we've got a big season ahead. Don't do that again. And we didn't. We were spot on. And it was one of the moments that, it was just a funny one where you thought, oh, we've got it coming now. We had a good pre-season. We had a good start, but then things fell away, to be fair, behind the scenes financially with Theo pulling out. It kind of changed quite quickly after that.
Yeah. And Dennis Wise was sort of player manager for a time as well. Did that help that he was sort of one of the lads?
Yeah, it was, again, very different. I've never experienced that before in my career. And you call him Den, some called him Gaffer if you wanted to, but he didn't care. You called him what you want. I used to call him Jimmy Cranky, Jimbo, and he'd be fine. He wouldn't be just a bit. Yeah, but he used to call me Shirley. I was called Shirley because I had long hair, and he'd be Jimmy, but he's my manager, and that's what you did at those times, and that's what that's how we kind of got on, and there was no kind of issues with it. It was just this brilliant, relaxed environment, which I'll be honest, you would not get that nowadays. You just wouldn't get this. Things have changed, and even from the analysis side, the strictness of privacy and whatnot. It's just very, very different.
Yeah, and then you go into the FA Cup semi-final against Sunderland at Old Trafford. Were you confident going into that game?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a full team, I think. Dennis was struggling with his calf. But apart from that, we had a full team. Kevin Muscat got injured in the first half. He had a real poor injury, to be fair, which was not nice. But we were just, when it comes to the cup games, we just felt unbeatable. I think we conceded, is it 1 or 2 goals up until the final? which is incredible. Look, don't get me wrong, we had a very favourable kind of draw all the way through. We didn't play a Prem side till the final, which doesn't normally happen. But we were just, our league form did drop. We all knew that, and Ray wasn't happy about that in particular. But when it comes to cup games, we turned it on, did we? Wow, just solid, almost like unbeatable feeling. We had Timmy obviously scoring the winner. But I remember that game really well. The first half, I think Sunderland probably edged it.
Yeah.
But the second half, it was just all Sunderland. We had, I think Dan Dickey had a fantastic chance to make it 2-0 a bit later on, and he missed. I think it was a cross that come in. I can't remember, he tried to head it, and he could have taken it down and placed it in. But I made the real bad mistake of looking up at that clock. And I think it was about 61 or 63 minutes. And as soon as I've looked at it, I've gone, oh no. It felt like we've been playing for 40 minutes.
Right.
We've had 63 minutes. We've still got 27 minimum to go. That was the longest half of my whole career.
Right.
Or one of them, top three. It was just like the Alamo. And they were putting a massive amount of pressure. But the good thing, the positive of that in the second half was, so I was playing against Tommy Smith, who was an ex-Watford youth team, a friend of mine as well, good friend of mine at the time. And he was the threat. And Mick took him off. He took him off. I think it was a good 10 or 15 minutes before the end of the game.
Yeah. And
we couldn't believe it. And I've looked at Matty Lawrence, and he's looked at me, and we knew what we were thinking, like, brilliant. We're going to win this game. Tommy's their threat. Not Kyle, who's big guy. Kyle, I've got his name.
Kevin Kyle, the striker.
Kevin Kyle, that's it. Kevin Kyle, yeah. I just ate him up every time I played against him. He was my sort of player. Come on, let's go. And you've met your match, Kevin. You absolutely, and no problem. But Tommy was a good player, very quick, very swift. So that was a real tough game. But I remember, and it's on my Twitter kind of picture, when we literally, when the whistle went, the energy that I didn't even believe that I still had in me that come out when we won, to get to the FA Cup final with this squad for the Championship was, just send shivers up your spine. Yeah.
And what are your memories, Darren, of the build up and the the fanfare that goes into that game and the game itself?
We tried to enjoy it, to be honest. We had a lot of attention. A lot of press. We actually sung a song which didn't get released in time, which we were gutted about. Yeah, we actually put a song together. There was a bit of an issue with the image rights, something to do with the rights of it. So it got delayed. The suit measurements, all the things around it, the fans, the trip, those things that the top players, that we were witnessing getting to big, obviously, cup finals, that, just loved it. It's such a nice moment again. And I was probably more grateful than most because of what happened to me previously to get to an FA Cup final, a boy from Harrow, playing for Parkfield Youth, growing up and going well, and all of my brothers as well, that this was just fairy tale stuff. But it was just incredible. Just loved it. Absolutely loved it. And on the day, it was, again, just up until 42, 43 minutes, 0-0. And then a certain Ronaldo pops up and scores a goal, which, it was a hard one to take. But we kind of half knew that we'd have to pull something extra special out of the hat here, because we had about three players out injured who would have started, and that was hard for us. That was a hard one for us to then try to obviously beat Man United in an FA Cup final.
Yeah, because what was it like taking on the likes of Ronaldo, and you've got Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, Ruud van Nistelrooy, when they're playing in a game that is so important to them as well? It's not a pre-season friendly or the Carling Cup third round. This is the FA Cup final. Did they have like an aura that they were a level above the other teams you'd faced?
Do you know what? I'll be honest. I didn't watch the FA Cup final, although I played in it, until probably about 6 months ago.
Wow, right.
I'd never watched it again for whatever reason. I'm kind of like that. I just get on with things. I don't hang around. I don't just kind of, I process. I think a lot, but I don't hang around and think about two things. I'm always right. What's next? What's next? What's next? So our son was like, "Oh, do you want to watch the FA Cup final?" Something come up, said, "Yeah, go on then." And we watched it together. And don't get me wrong, Man United had a lot more possession, chances, but I don't think there was a huge gulf. There wasn't. If you looked at that and knowing Man United at the time under Alex Ferguson, Man United had won finals and teams have won finals 4-5-0 and dominated. Now, first half in particular, that was more favourable Man United. But looking at our squad and where we come from, the players that we didn't have playing, I thought we done very well. I thought we kind of showed that there was quality within the team, that we could defend well, get bodies behind the ball. We looked structured, especially in the first half. But it was the occasion. I think it was our FA Cup final was the semi-final to us, and the final was, wow, we're here. And Dennis was very mindful, and if you saw tactically how he played, that he was very mindful that he didn't want us to get hammered. He didn't want us to be 4-5-6-0. And after 42 minutes, it was 43 minutes, it was 0-0.
Yeah.
And we know that Alex Ferguson was having kittens. He was not happy. Because if he lost to if Man United lost to Millwall, wow, there's trouble. So, it was just, I was comfortable. I thought I had a good game. I thought I played well. Van Nistelrooy scored 2, but one was a pen, the other one I couldn't do anything about. Apart from that, I thought I had a very good game against him, against arguably the best striker in the country, or certainly in the world at the time, or one of them anyway. So just an incredible experience.
So then, after your spell with Millwall, you earned yourself a move to Crystal Palace, £1.1 million, which again back then is a lot of money. What was that like? Because I think you were player of the season in your first year at Selhurst Park.
Yeah, so I just had 2 seasons at Millwall, so FA Cup, then Europa Cup. We got into to Europe. I'd signed a new 3-year deal after the FA Cup. So Tim, you went to Everton. And the story was, I don't know if you know this, that David Moyes was looking at both of us, myself and Timmy. And my agent spoke to him at the time and he said, "I'd love to sign Darren, but I signed 2 championship players. This is Everton. If I sign 2 championship players, I could be in big trouble." And that's something which you kind of look at and you think, yeah. But then by Timmy going, that freed up a new, very good deal for me at the club.
Right.
And Theo said, we're going to pump money in, we're going to go for the Prem. So I turned a lot of opportunities down at the time, and decided to obviously stay with Millwall. That didn't happen. It wasn't a very good season for us. We got knocked out of Europe early. Theo pulled the plug. Players wanted to leave. That was a season in my prime that I probably should have, looking back, knowing that we weren't going to do anything, considered moving in January, which I did have options again. So when it comes to Crystal Palace, it was literally a case of who could afford me. It really was. I had every championship club, I think, wanted to sign me. There was West Ham in the Prem who wanted to sign me. Pardew had put an offer in, and he said, "We want him. He'll be coming in. He'll be taking his brother's place, Elliot."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, I can't do that. And what about that for a decision? West Ham or Palace playing for Millwall? Yeah, you couldn't get any closer rival. You tried. I had Norwich who were interested. Word on the street, Tottenham were interested. Rangers, Aston Villa. But what I did, I wanted to get that deal done early.
Yeah.
Because again, I like to know where I stand. I want to move on. Theo and Simon Jordan were very pally. There was something going on there in terms of a deal, and I'll be honest, the contract that I got offered there was one that I just couldn't turn down. Mm-hmm. That they were dwarfing Premiership money at the time. It was very, very good money. And what I spoke about earlier about my injury, I was just about to turn 28, 27 going to 28. I can't turn this down. And knowing that they would have moved on if I didn't sign that deal, I might have got a Prem side, but it wouldn't have been on that money. Right. It wouldn't have been on that money. It wouldn't at all. So it was a tough one, but I literally ripped up a 2-year deal at Millwall, which helped them because they were in financial difficulty. Yeah. I was owed money, which got written off from Millwall, which helped them. And I was player of the season 2 years before, 2 years in a row with Millwall. Went to Selhurst Park, had a strong season, got player of the season there, 3 years on the spin, which is a personal achievement, which I'm very proud of. Yeah. We narrowly missed out to the Prem in the playoffs against Watford.
Yeah. And then a few years later, Darren, you've ended up at Wolverhampton Wanderers, and you've been in quite a surreal predicament, really, because during that time, your first season, you played 30 games in the Championship, but then in 08-09, you were on loan back at Watford, and then you spent the second half of the season at Charlton. Now, Charlton were unfortunately relegated that season from the Championship, but your parent club were promoted to the Premier League. Was that quite a conflicting few weeks for you?
Yeah, it was quite incredible, to be honest. I was naturally disappointed that I wasn't part of the team at Wolves. I thought when I played, I'd done well. The first season, done well there. It was, Mick, by the way, Mick McCarthy, lovely guy, fantastic manager he's been over the years. But we there was something there. And if I met him now, we'd say it openly, but I still like the man, and he's a good man, and he's done well. Terry Connor, fantastic guy as well. They've served football so well, and they've done really well for themselves. And I'm, very happy to have said that I've played under their leadership. So, but it was just something which wasn't right. Maybe it's because it was the first time I moved away from home, from London or in and around London. And we had our first son, Ronnie, who was born. So it was kind of a bit of a mixture. But again, I didn't want to move from Wolves because they'd signed me for, 750,000 going up to £1 million. This is, again, a lot of money back then. So I was on a good deal. Naturally, you're not going to walk away from a good deal. So it had to be right. When I went to Charlton, I was so keen to do well for Charlton because I knew if I'd done well for Charlton, especially against certain teams, that would help Wolves to get promoted. So I still felt that there was a duty to be done there whilst under contract at Wolves. And I loved the time at Charlton. Some fantastic guys there. Mark Hudson, who I obviously played with before at Palace, had a fantastic career. And a number of players who just, Matthew Spring, who played with and against previously. A real good time, but we just couldn't avoid that drop. I think it was a real rut the club was in at the time, which was a shame. But at the same time, Wolves got promoted, so it was a bit of a bittersweet in a way. And on the personal side, happy contract-wise, but gutted that Charlton had stepped into League One.
And just finally, Darren, I do need to ask you about Swindon Town. You played under Paolo Di Canio there. Now, you signed in 2012, and 2 days later, Swindon are beaten by Preston 4-1, and Wes Foderingham is substituting. after 21 minutes. Now, you don't see goalkeepers getting substituted. And I remember at the time it was all over Sky Sports News, and it caused, quite a furore at the time. What was that like for you, Darren, going into the dressing room and such a situation to have occurred just a few days after you got to the football club?
So I played under Graham Taylor, Glenn Roeder, been with some guys who are not say you're different and old school, and some of the things you do at the runs and pre-season, army camps, and all these different things you used to do. And then I come across Paolo. What do I say? I signed. I've just, 32 at the time. I think I've seen it all. You kind of come to Swindon again. I had a chance to sign for LA Galaxy, New York Red Bulls. That was when David Beckham was out in LA Galaxy. Yeah. But the money, obviously, he just took most of the money, and everyone else just got scrapped. And to kind of upheaval and move our family out there just wasn't, on money like that, it just wasn't doable. So Swindon come in, a really good contract, really good 2.5-year deal. I think it was 3-year deal. Thought, wow, let's go. Paolo Di Canio, there's a good name in football about him. Joined. All the new signings were on the bench or in the stand watching this game. 21 minutes, Wes comes off. And what happened in and around that was just, I'm literally looking around again, thinking, what have I signed into it? What have I signed into? Paolo, I think a lot of people think that he's a bit crazy. He's wacky, eccentric. Paolo is an incredibly intelligent guy. Do not be fooled. This guy is switched on, big time. And that's something I noticed very early. Me personally, why did he do that for? He done that to prove a point to all of us. There is one person and one person in charge only. If you go against him, if you answer back, you're coming off. And that's what he did. I don't even really think, looking at it, that it was Wes's fault. I thought it was a defender. I won't name his name. And I looked at it and I thought, that went Wes. And by the way, Wes is an amazing guy. Fantastic human being. Had a great time with Wes. What a nice guy. For Wes to react like that as well, you've got to seriously whine. Something's gone wrong there. Yeah. And by the way, so was the whole group. But Paolo was just demonstrated, or tried to demonstrate power really there and authority. Yeah. Wes went straight back in, I think, played. I started playing, but it was the hardest training I've ever witnessed in my life. Right. And I think that's why he signed me as well, because he knew I was a fit guy. What I spoke about earlier, I was leading the pack. Yep. And at 32, 33, I was still doing the same. And they're the sort of players he wanted. And when I joined, it was totally different. No weights program. Everything was really regimental. But ultimately, our performances and our results were the best in Europe at one stage. Yeah. I think even in the world, there was a stat that comes with Sky Sports that our win rate and goal ratio were better than Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man United, whoever the top teams were in the Prem. Yeah. And we were steamrolling teams. And that was down to how hard we worked. We were in every day. You hardly ever got a day off. You run religiously on the Monday after a game on the Saturday. In on the Sunday, warm down, religious running on the Monday, really hard running. Hard again on the Tuesday. Wednesday was more of a calmer day. Back on it Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And it was such an eye-opener for me. But in a weird way, really enjoyed it. Learned so much from Paolo, and so much from that experience. And what a wonderful club Swindon is as well. A real sleeping giant, hoping that they can kind of really start to fulfill potential with what's happened recently with the new owner.
Yeah, because at that time, Darren, they had Matt Ritchie, Gary Roberts. There was a lot of talent in that team, wasn't it? And as a football fan on paper, that looked like a really top team. What do you think sort of went wrong in the end for it not to go to plan?
Well, Matt Ritchie got signed by Portsmouth, I think it was. So basically, the owner wanted to leave.
Yeah.
He pumped a lot of money into it. Paolo was very quick to get players out if you did not do as you're told, if you didn't do what he wanted. I was very understanding of that and done what I was asked. And where we had a really big squad, big wage bill, I think that the owner said, right, enough's enough. He wanted to pull out. The club then sold Matt Ritchie, which was against what he wanted. Paolo stuck his heels on the floor and it just fell apart. I then took over as temporary manager with Tommy Miller for, was it 3 games? Loved it, but still wanted to play. So I politely rejected that offer. As the season went on, we got into the playoffs, lost on penalties against Brentford, who then lost against Yeovil in the final. We were so close, but I was really gutted that Paolo left. Because I still believe that, although Matt had gone, I still believe we would have got promoted. I really do.
Yeah.
And at that point in my career, that was quite a tough one to take. So, but an amazing experience, Paolo. You know, I owe him a lot. He supported me, backed me, and although it was hard work, it was certainly one that I wouldn't change.
Yeah, and as you say, this was coming towards the end of your career. Then you went to Crawley, Yeovil. You did the season with Hemel Hempstead, and now you're the DW Soccer School. How fulfilling is that to be teaching the next generation of players?
Yeah, fantastic. You have to make a decision after football. So I have my A license. I've the ultimate coaching badge. Obviously, there's a pro license after that, but it's very different to the A. There's been opportunities for me to go back into the game. But what people don't understand is how long I've played. So I've played for 20 years.
Yeah.
I had 628 professional games, even with a broken leg. You know, I played a lot of professional football games, and I've been a manager. I've been around. I've done a lot of travelling, and it comes to a point. So I'm married with 3 children that you have to go, right, I need some stability in my life, and that's my decision. My number one value is my family. Football second, and this keeps me in the game. We do some wonderful things now in terms of what we offer for the next generation, the community, for players who just want to start or high-performing players. So tomorrow we're playing Watford Academy with our under-8 PDC group at their actual academy. So we're taking the group down there tomorrow. I'll meet some guys. Richard Johnson, I've now that seat down there to play for Watford, who runs things, and I'm still involved. So it's going really well. DW Soccer School has grown from strength to strength. I think people seeing the standards which we set, which I certainly have taken from the professional game and brought into ultimately grassroots to try to help the community and these younger players to learn the game in a positive and healthy way.
Yeah, excellent, Darren. Really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me today. Amazing.
You as well, helped you guys. Yeah. But it's a pleasure. It's absolute pleasure. I'm quite busy. There's a lot going on at the minute. I'm quite a bit of a workaholic, but it's always nice to have a bit of time to put aside for these moments, and hopefully it might inspire someone or help someone along the way, or put a smile on someone's face.
Yeah, and I just clocked the shirt behind you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was that's the FA Cup final shirt.
Amazing.
So,
unreal.
It's however many years old now, 21 years old now, but that's the one signed, and I've got a few here and there which I don't have really out for show, just in certain rooms. That it's something which is been in part of history. So hopefully now our children can maybe go and do something in football. You never know if they decide to, or some sort of sport themselves. It's their turn. So see how it goes.
Yeah, because your family, a big football family, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Elliot was obviously a top pro, West Ham, Coventry, Bournemouth. Scott was a professional at Luton. He had to retire for injury, which is unfortunate. And Lee was an academy player at Watford as well. Didn't quite make professional, but he was the oldest, and it's kind of like we've learned coming down. So between us all, we've played over 1,000 professional games from the
Incredible.
Premiership down to League Two. 4 boys from, again, Harrow playing for Parkfield and moving on. Yeah, quite incredible. Quite incredible. Yeah. Very, very unique and very rare. And our parents should be, which we know they are, very proud of that, because it was in our wildest dreams when we were young, growing up, playing at the park, and having to work for everything that we got to have careers like that in football and to make our family proud. It's just an absolute dream come true.